Warning: this video contains spoilers for Persona 5 Royal's final dungeon.
Do you like the reality I created for you? I have gained the power to alter reality, to make it whatever the people wish for. The old reality was cruel and unfair. Don't you understand? Think about it. You both have dreams, no? I have the power to make them come true. My reality can become just the way you like.
Very well. Let us go.
Welcome to this video. Today we are going to analyze Persona 5 Royal's final palace, Maruki's Palace. As it has been mentioned before, there will be spoilers in this video about the final 3 palaces of the game. Warning: if you have not played Persona 5 Royal, you should better quit this video. Before getting to the point of the video, we should ask ourselves a question. Who is Takuto Maruki? Maruki is a major character throughout all of the story of Persona 5 Royal. He is introduced as one of the multiple confidants we can talk to in this game. As all of them, he has one of the tarot cards assigned to him. This time it is the Counselor Arcana, which is not on the main deck of the tarot. The meaning associated with this arcana constantly varies, however it is nearly the same as the Magician's Arcana. When upright, this arcana constantly shows the same traits, these being diplomacy, possibility of choice, and power over mental illness. We meet Maruki early on in the game, right after the events of the first palace. Later on, he becomes a counselor of the Shujin Academy, where our main protagonists know him for the first time. As the story progresses, he gets to know every single one of the members of the Phantom Thieves. However, he establishes a special relationship with Joker, our main protagonist. As we progress on the story of his social link, we know some interesting things about him. We discover that he has been doing some research about matters of the heart, trying to get to know where does pain come from and how to eradicate it. Near the fourth palace, we discovered Maruki has a research about cognitive science. This topic is pretty important for the story of the game and how it develops, since it is what Futaba's mother, an important character in the story, had been doing before she was killed by the main antagonist of this game, Masayoshi Shido. This last name is important, since he was the man responsible for all of this happening in the first place. Now that we know all of this, we can get to the main point of the video. What would you do if you could live in a perfect world? A world where all your traumas could be erased, where every single one of your loved ones are still alive. A place where pain doesn't exist. This is the question that the third semester in Persona 5 Royal makes us. And it is not even just a narrative question, this is a dilemma. One that is deeply philosophical about liberty, pain, and what really means to be human. After the events of the original Persona 5's ending, Persona 5 Royal adds a new semester that begins after the new year. Here is where Maruki appears again, now as the main antagonist. We discover that he has the ability to remake reality. His intentions seem noble, to eradicate suffering from people, giving them an ideal life. But what would it cost to these people? For context, before these events, we fought against Yaldabaoth, the god of control. He was driven by the idea that humanity's pain came from its free will, so he decided to take away people's free will to make them happy. Yaldabaoth considers humanity as non-worthy of free will. He sees people as weak and incapable of taking the right decisions. That's why he imposed a system of punishment and vigilance, where everyone acts quote-unquote correctly because they are forced to do that. Philosophically, this represents a form of extreme determinism, where everything is already decided, not for goodness, but just for convenience, where there is not even a single space for liberty, just for obedience. Maruki's intentions are different from his, but this is another side of the same coin. Maruki doesn't act for the spice of humanity, but for compassion. He doesn't act for punishment or domination. His intentions are to cure and to relieve from pain. But this is made without any real consent. We could say that Maruki is just another type of Yaldabaoth. He is a villain that thinks he is doing the right thing. But as Kant would say, acting morally is not just searching for good results. Also matters the respect for the autonomy of the others. This is why this game puts so much emphasis on the rebellion, not only against the injustices of the world, but against any form of control, even those which seem good intentioned. Both villains think they know what's right for everyone. Here's when we enter this question. Would we rather be free even if that implies we will suffer? Or be happy under an illusion? Maruki creates a reality when suffering doesn't exist. He uses his power to rewrite the memories and deepest desires of the people he knows. At a simple glance, we can say it's an utopia. Nobody dies, nobody loses anything, and nobody has to burden with their traumas. But at the end of the day, what you lose is the free will you have. We can associate this mentality of Maruki's with utilitarianism. Its principles come from the idea that the greatest happiness only can come without suffering. If we see it from an utilitarianist way, Maruki's ideals have logic. According to John Stuart Mill, an action is right if it generates the most happiness for the most number of people. And which is the best way to do it if it is not to eradicate all the pain forever? Maruki is not driven by an egoist mean. No. His goal is genuinely altruist. But how can an imposed happiness be ethical? Is it a form of manipulation even if it feels right? We can also associate this dilemma with the famous myth of the Plato's cavern, the one where prisoners live only seeing the shadows in a wall, believing that is the whole reality, until one of them escapes and sees the real world. For Plato, reaching out to the truth always hurts, but it is necessary. We can see this allegory where Maruki represents those comforting shadows, and the Phantom Thieves, instead of choosing the recomforting world, choose to see the truth, even if it hurts. But as we have been saying, Maruki is not a villain, or at least not fully. He has not bad intentions. No, he's a herdman, one who suffered a lot throughout all his life. He found a way to avoid that any other person suffers what he has suffered. And he genuinely cares. He wants to make the world a better place. A world that nobody suffers in, except from him taking all that suffering. But that imposed happiness is not freedom. There's where the conflict starts from. Maruki used his powers the first time with his fiancée Rumi, who had already suffered from a lot of pain before. Her parents died in a tragic incident, and Maruki was desperately trying to save her. Since she had entered a state of post-traumatic stress, he used his powers unknowingly and also knowingly erased himself from her mind. She could live happy again, but Maruki couldn't be there, so he just stepped aside. Then he uses his power a second time with Sumire, one of the major characters in the story, who was believed to be her sister Kazumi. He changed her cognition so she couldn't suffer anymore by making her think she was her sister and not herself. We can see this dilemma again with Sumire, who chooses the truth instead of Maruki's fake reality, finally accepting what had happened and the implications it had. She had her freedom again. Even if she had to suffer, she would eventually find happiness. What I found brilliant in Persona 5 Royal is that the game doesn't force you to condemn Maruki, but it does make you choose. Would you accept the happy life? Or would you fight for the truth even if it's painful? At the end, in the true ending, the Phantom Thieves choose the truth, fighting Maruki in a final battle where everything would be decided. If I in the real life would be in that situation, I would probably don't know what to do. But in-game, I chose what I thought was the best option. To accept reality as it is, even if it's painful, and recover my free will once and for all. I personally don't think this question will have a real answer. I don't think there's a good or bad thing in this situation, since everyone could be happy in both. The game itself doesn't even tell us what is the real answer, but it does make us an essential question. Do we want a perfect life with someone else controlling it? Or a free life with everything it implies? Maybe the imperfections in life are what makes us humans in reality. We don't know actually. Everyone can be free to choose any option they like, but I personally think freedom is better than any other thing in humanity. Thank you for hearing this analysis. I hope you'd like it.